Good evening. Welcome to the Shadow Trader Video Weekly for Sunday, July 23rd, 2017. If you recall, in last week's video, the title was the weeklies show higher into earnings, and that basically came perfectly true, right? Because here's the weekly bar of this week in the SPX. So we did go higher with earnings continuing on. And I just want to spend a little bit of time on these majors for now because I did put on a play in one of them short, actually, but the majority of them look good. I mean, the SPX, I think, wants to push a little bit higher. The DJI had kind of a balancing week. This I'm not that impressed with, that it just kind of made this doji. Could be a hanging man, which could be bearish, so it's kind of stumbling there. NASDAQ Composite, very bullish, and I need everybody to pay close attention to the channel. This is where I think the NASDAQ is going. It's going to come up to the channel, and then there's going to be a short trade to the downside. NDX is the same exact thing. It's got a channel move to possibly up here, which is around 60.30 to 60.50 up in that area. That could be a huge last thrust. And last but not least is the Russell, and this is the one that I think is kind of a short play because it's hit up against the backside of the resistance here, or the top of the channel, I should say, up to the top of its channel. Actually, that's the trend line there. And look how perfectly it is to the penny. Like to the penny, it literally went right to the top of the channel. So that's actually what I think was basically just set up for a short play right here. And that's one that Scott and I did together. And just to give you a look-see on that, on what we did on that, that was, I'm going to have to pull this over. Hold on one second. So we did a broken wing butterfly, two of them actually on the put side, and we're using IWM as the vehicle because obviously that's the proxy for the Russell. And the first trade is that we are long the 142 puts, and this is in the end of the month series right here, and short 2 times the 140 puts. And then instead of being long the 138s, we're long the 135, which is a broken wing butterfly, which makes it very cheap. You can see that was 16 cents, but your max value is like $2. And in this one, it's a similar trade. We just layered it on top of it because we just started looking at it and said, you know what, I really like this. And I was telling Scott, I said, let's add another one on top. So we added just 2 units of a slightly more expensive one, which is a little bit wider. So we have 143 to 140. And again, instead of this being 137, we made it 133, which makes it cheaper. And we paid 55 cents. And this one has a $3 max gain, and this one has a $2 max gain. All right. And so far, those have expanded a little bit. And I'll show you exactly also, if we look at the IWM chart, why we're using those is basically look at the 142 right here, and then look where kind of like the midpoint of everything is, like where you would probably find some support right in here, which would be about 138. So anywhere in the middle of this is kind of like the max value area right in here. So it just made sense, and especially when it's a short duration. Remember, you want to use things like butterflies, or I should say you want to use things like broken wing butterflies that are cheap, or unbalanced butterflies, which are even cheaper, which are +1, -3, +2. You want to use this type of spread when the duration is short, when there's little time. So you have like a weekly, like this trade expires July 28th, in about 5 more trading days. Sometimes you'd use the unbalanced if you are trading, say, from Wednesday to Friday. That's probably the best one there. If I have like a whole week, I'd rather use a BWB and do +1, -2, +1. But actually, it's more like down here, +1, right? You've got this kind of bigger distance here, which makes it somewhat cheaper. So that's the trade, and you can see that it's begun to expand a little bit. Not a whole lot with IWM coming off of that high, but not really majorly, right? So far, just about $850, not really big on decent size, but it's starting to expand. And we're looking for maybe for this to be like the first spread to be worth like maybe like $1, and if the second one could be worth like 150 to 2, that would be like a home run. Remember, you're never looking for max value on these things. You're never thinking of closing a butterfly like right at the middle on Friday. It's a game of, as I always say, like in the first instance, we bought it for like 16 cents or something. You can sell it for, say, 60 cents. That's a home run. And in the second example, we paid roughly whatever it was, 55 cents. I don't remember, and if that can go to like, say 110 for a double, that's huge. So that's kind of the way you got to think about these things. So a little bit of a bearish trade on the Russell, but I think the other indices look good, and especially when you look at the NDX, you've just now cleared the all-time high just by a little bit, and you closed up at the high. Good-looking candle. So I think that the play is still that the NDX wants to go up to the top of the channel, and then we could see some sort of a correction in NASDAQ stocks, especially given the fact that the last time we were at the channel low was in 2016. And look at all up in here. We rode above the channel, and we gapped up out of there, moved higher. And in here, notice that we never came down to the channel. We're still riding up the channel. So at some point, there's going to be some comeuppance, and you're going to get a move like this. It's going to go to the other side of the channel. But we'll see. That's basically what I'm looking at. All right, let's take a really brief look at the profile. I would say it's status quo. Those of you that are in the James Dalton Mastery Series course number 2, you probably heard mine and Jim's comments on Friday, where we spoke for about an hour. And we talked a lot about tone and the importance of understanding tone in the markets, both in the day time frame and in a larger time frame. And both of us were saying that basically there really is no sign that there are any sellers in this market. And there's really no sign that the rally is over. Notice that just over the last 3 trading days after we broke out a bit here, value has been kind of balancing here. Obviously, this value is lower, but there's really nothing here that's pointing to any kind of turn in prices. The high on Friday was poor, so it needs some repair. Of course, prices could back off a bit first, but then they probably get repaired. Somewhere in here, I don't have it set properly, but there's an overnight high that's actually the all-time high, was made in an overnight session. So usually those don't hold, and usually the market will trade a new all-time high in a regular trading session. So just keep that in mind. All right, let's talk about, I'm going to give you 2 trade ideas, both of which are IBD 50 stocks that are setting up for buy points. First one is called Sienna Corp. And I just like this sort of inverted head and shoulders, which looks pretty good. This is on a weekly. And if you look at it on a daily, I think it's a little bit clearer because you have this basic downtrend line. And notice that these lows here are equal. You have this lower low, but essentially close to equal. And the stock is just chopping and looking to break out. And it closed very strong on Friday. And I think there's still plenty of time to be a buyer here. They're going to report earnings on August 31st. And because this is a $26 stock, honestly, my idea here, they're going to report out here at the end of August on the 31st. But anyway, what I was going to say is probably the idea here, it depends on how long you're going to hold it, but it's probably better just to have stock and buy puts, basically. You could have the 26s for about $1.30 as a theoretical price, and that would give you protection all the way through earnings for $1.30, which I think makes the most sense. Just buy the stock and have some put protection, honestly. It just feels like that makes the most sense. I mean, because look here, this range here is from 26 down to 24.66, so that's roughly the value of the puts. So the puts are kind of pricing in that it's not going below there, but as the stock will be dribbling through in this area, let's say it does fall apart, you'll be sitting on long puts, and you'll know that your max loss is basically what you paid for the puts. So that's an idea there. You could trade it like that. LITE is the other one. This is Lumentum Holdings, and again, you have this sort of inverted head and shoulders rolling down in here, right? And then look at all these touches here. This is actually 3 times here, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this is actually kind of 6 if you count that these are 3 right here. So the stock is really chomping at the bit. It looks like it really wants to break a little bit higher. Their earnings are on August 9th. I don't really like the options that much in this. As you look here, because they don't have weeklies. So you'd have to be buying these calls here. The IV is pretty jacked up. If you look at it here, it's 70% implied volatility. The spreads are relatively expensive. I just threw up a couple here. I don't know why my drawing tool is not working. 65.80, which is $15, can be had for $4, and 55.75, $20, you'd pay $8.70. Expensive, and you know, there's this also may be a situation where you may want to more or less just buy stock, you know, because the options are really not that good, and also because they don't have weeklies. The problem with that is that you cannot sell puts against your position using weeklies. Like the trade that I like to do mostly is to have weekly options long all the way out to earnings or in earnings and sell against them and get them to be as close to free and have kind of like that free trade on using the weeklies against the longer term option, but you can't probably do that there. But anyway, you want to look at it, it's a pretty good setup. And these are the only 2 IBD 50 stocks that I can see out of the 50 list or the current list that really look like they're setting up on buy points. A lot of the other stocks have just been very, very overextended. All right, that's it for this week. On behalf of myself and the entire Shadow Trader team here in beautiful Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, I wish you good trading. And so there's a bonus video this week that I finished during the course of the week, a live trading video of a pretty monstrous trade in Priceline. Those of you that have been paying attention probably noticed that Priceline hit 2,000 this week. And you can find the bonus video under my channel under the live trading. So just go Shadow Trader 01, that's the name of the channel, search, and that'll take you here. You can click on it, and it'll take you right to the channel. And then if you select playlists here, you'll notice that live trading videos is one of the playlists. Click on that, and then the first one is the one I'm talking about, is the Priceline. So click there and you can view it. All right, enjoy.